Hello and welcome to another episode of Write With Me. I finished my short story and I've done a few writing exercises, but I had the idea to write a piece of flash fiction because I don't really have anything in mind for a proper short story, like 4,000 or 5,000 words in length, but I did come across a prompt generator. Today we're going to be using the image generator. So here's how it works. You will get 2 suggestions for how to use images. You can use it as an exercise in observation, write descriptions, or come up with a story. I think I'm going to go with the first one, just because writing descriptions is something that I'm very confident in, and I don't really feel like is going to be the most exciting. I like the idea of coming up with a completely new world. So tap left or right on the image to show a new image, and they are suitable for all age groups. So if you want to do this for a class or for kids, go ahead. And all the images are from Unsplash. So let's do the next image and see what I'm going to write about. Ooh. So for those of you who don't know, I went to Venice for the Biennale with my art school, and it was fantastic. And there were a lot of old ladies staring out these decrepit but beautiful old buildings. And I would always dream about what kind of life they were living, what they were looking at, and this is a great chance for me to take that imagination and all those thoughts and turning it into a little flash fiction story. So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to speed this up just because the last Write With Me was a short exercise, but this one I'm going to speed up. Feel free to watch me writing, watch me thinking, that kind of thing. But you can also pause or just skip to the end and use this photograph for yourself and tell me what you wrote about. That would be also really nice. Honestly, if anybody even leaves their short story in the comments, or an idea that they had when they saw this, or any thoughts on my short story, although I really would love if other people tried this exercise too, because that's kind of the whole point of this, It would be fantastic, and I think that you would have fun if you do it. So what are you waiting for? I'm going to open up a fresh Word document, drop the picture in, and get to work. Let's go. that was actually a lot more fun than I was expecting. I had some idea of what I wanted the story to be, but what I usually find when I write a character is that even though I have certain ideas, once I start writing them, they start writing themselves. It's like they become a real person and they just start telling me their story. So I'm basically a Ouija board. It's a bit of a bittersweet story. I will read it out to you right at the end, so you can skip to that if you want. This is the timestamp. But I just want to talk a little bit about what I was thinking and how I kind of put this all together, because I find it really interesting when other people talk about this. So, I always struggle with first lines, and I found that when I just put down a first line and stop reading it over and over again in my head and just keep writing, I can go back and change things. I often start stories in the middle, but with this one, because it was so short, it's 582 words. I thought, I can do this. I'm just going to go from the beginning to the end and that's it. And it worked out. I googled, I don't know if you saw, but I googled names because I wanted this to be set in an Italian village, and I couldn't think of like old-fashioned Italian names, not like Maria and Giovanni. I wanted like some, traditional names that sounded cozy. And I also did maths on my fingers because I'm real bad at maths sometimes. And yeah, it was good. It was a good exercise. I enjoyed it very much. And I'm definitely doing more of these in the future. Window. Caterina stood in her kitchen, deciding whether to eat a white or brown chicken egg for breakfast that Sunday morning. She knew it didn't really make much of a difference, but coming up with little problems for herself to solve early in the morning made her feel more alive. She couldn't help herself. She'd been alive for 87 years, and each year everything took on an even duller tone than before. The cracks in the plaster grew, the bubbles in the wallpaper swelled, and her interest in things outside herself dwindled with each sunrise. Brown. She put the egg into a chipped enamel pot and sat down on the bench by the window. The window she sat at when she saw her husband returning home from the war over 50 years ago, his boots worn and falling apart. The window she sat at when she watched years of wedding parties descend the steps of the capella across the piazza, throwing rice she would quietly go and sweep up in the middle of the night because she couldn't bear to see food wasted. The window she sat at when the first rain of spring fell and the scent of dry, hot stones being pelted with cold, loud rain would drift into her nostrils and fill her with zeal. There used to be days where the window was her only experience of the town below. With each passing day it became more difficult for Caterina to walk over the uneven cobblestones, walking stick in hand. Years ago she would hobble proudly to the markets and squeeze every tomato in sight before filling her basket and hobbling back home, but now her knees ached too much, and her niece Julia would stop by once a week to ask for a recipe or advice, and just happened to have a basket full of food for her. Caterina knew better. Her pride knew better. The girl was visiting to make sure she hadn't tripped and died alone in the night, to bring her food since she could no longer carry, and fruit soft enough for her to chew. Caterina knew all this, yet she couldn't bring herself to be grateful or angry at the girl. She knew it was done out of love, even if pity was unfortunately involved. The egg rattled against the edges of the pot, creating a thumping beat not dissimilar to an erratic heartbeat, like the kind Federico had before he died in his sleep beside her. While the rest of the world recorded history in terms of before and after Christ, Caterina remembered everything in terms of before and after Federico's death. She rubbed her hand on the worn-down seat of the bench, noticing for the first time how the small spots in the wood resembled the age spots on her hands. 20 years it had been. 20 years since her beloved husband had left her to be with the Lord and his angels, and yet she still felt a ringing sadness that he hadn't taken her with him. Caterina raised her tear-filled eyes toward the sun coming in through the small window. Pigeons rested on the clotheslines tied between the tall buildings ahead, a silhouette as old and familiar as the town itself. A warm breeze from the ocean suddenly drifted through, coaxing the pigeons into the air and making the clothes dance in the sunlight. She stood quietly from her bench and checked on the egg. It was done. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Capture entire screen. Capture. No, film. Hello and weather? I'm drinking from my ᴡɪᴛᴇ mug, and it's corn tea, cold corn tea. Cheers. Also, this puzzle is a nightmare, but it's very beautiful and I'm gonna finish it. It looks real cool once it's finished. Look at this. This is the first clothing I ever embroidered. It's a little jewel beetle. And it has survived multiple washes, so I think I'm good.